So Debbie confronts her. She asks her, is Karen in that hole? Is Karen in that hole? And you will hear that Deborah Patton just basically ignores her. Says, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
In Hillsborough County, Florida, Deborah Patton is charged with the murder of her sister, Karen Pais. Under Florida Statute 782.04, murder in the first degree is a capital felony, punishable by life in prison without parole. Prosecutors say she put a bullet through Karen's chest, wrapped her body in plastic and duct tape, and buried her in the backyard of the home they shared. But Deborah Patton didn't call the police. She didn't call anyone. She went back inside and pretended nothing happened.
Karen Pais led a simple life in a quiet neighborhood in the Carrollwood community. She was a retired engineer from Verizon. She had a select group of good friends, and she enjoyed gardening. She enjoyed working in her yard. She enjoyed washing her car. Neighbors will say she was often seen outside, actually very regularly. So at some point, approximately 10 years before May of 2021, her sister, Deborah Patton, moved in with her. Karen Pais had the main bedroom, the master bedroom with the adjoining or attached bath. And Deborah lived in the other room in that house, the other bedroom in that house. And you're going to see pictures of these bedrooms. And you'll have, the victim's friends will describe and tell you which bedroom is which, so you'll understand how they lived. They lived there together approximately 10 years. During that time, you will hear from the friends of Karen Pais. They will tell you how when Deborah first moved in, things were very good there. That Deborah would hang out with them. That they would play games together around the table. That Deborah was very involved with them and that they all felt comfortable with her. That the sisters seemed to be getting along very well. That was 10 years before. You're going to hear that around the time of the homicide, Deborah Patton and Karen Pais were not getting along. They were not communicating. The friends will say that for a while Deborah would maybe sometimes come out while they were there, but then wouldn't even come out with them when they were there. And when she did, she wouldn't even acknowledge them. They could sense and see and feel the tension between these two sisters who were living together at this residence. The quiet life that Karen Pais had created for herself ended in late May of 2021. And it ended at the hands of that woman right there, Deborah Patton, her only sister. You're going to hear that she killed her, ladies and gentlemen, and then buried her in the backyard. She put a bullet in her chest and then wrapped her up in towels and in plastic bags, bungee cords, duct tape. You'll see how she was wrapped up. And then took her to her own backyard and buried her in the ground. Now, Karen had no other family other than Deborah, her sister. Her parents had passed. She had no children. She had no spouse or partner. No one to report her missing, other than Deborah Patton. But Karen had something else even better than family. She had good friends. She had friends who noticed something was off. Communication had stopped, and when it started back up, it didn't sound right. Things were weird. The last time the friends saw Karen Pais alive was at a party that was thrown by one of them, and Karen had shown up and they were all together, and this was the weekend before Memorial Day weekend. So this is the timing of this, all right? The weekend before Memorial Day weekend, the friends were all together. They were planning a haircut together. She leaves. Monday comes around. Tuesday comes around. They start to talk about this in the group text, but Karen, oddly, is not communicating back with them. And they find that strange, because that is unlike Karen. She was very involved with her friends, very communicative with her friends, and suddenly she stopped communicating. And then when she did, they will tell you those were not her words. They could tell right away that something was wrong. So they waited till about the 29th, which is the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day fell on that year on the 31st on a Monday. That Saturday, two of her friends, Pamela Nelson and Janice Wilder, were concerned enough and bothered enough that they said, we need to go to her house and see what's happening. So they drove there. You'll actually see video of them pulling up to the house, and I'll get to that in a moment. They get there, they come out, they go knock on the front door, they knock, no one answers. Janice, they call her Jan, walks around to the side of the home, and she's going to tell you all about this. And she looks in kind of in the garage area, and she sees that Karen's car is in the garage. And then she sees something else. She sees Deborah Patton standing in that garage. So she says, hey, Deborah. Hey, it's me, Jan. We're trying to find Karen. No response. Deborah ignores her, goes back into the house. At this point, obviously, the friends are incredibly concerned. They call the police. Sheriff's office shows up. She's still not answering the door. Eventually, the sheriff tells them, maybe if you all go, she'll answer. So they leave. Pam and Jan leave. A wellness check is conducted. Karen Pais is not found. Deborah Patton tells these sheriff's officers, I don't know where she is. She disappears sometimes. Who knows? Lies. She knew exactly where Karen Pais was. So, sheriff's office leaves, put it down as a missing person. Another one of Karen Pais' friends, Debbie Wishon, who you will hear from as well, goes over later that same evening. She goes over with her son and her son's fiance, and they go to knock on the door. Again, no answer. The son walks around the backyard and is able to gain entry through the back and opens the door, and Debbie goes into the home. She walks in, she notices that Karen's purse is there, but Karen is nowhere to be found. She finds Deborah Patton lying on her bed. She'll describe to you as somewhat lethargic. And she tells her, hey, Deborah, where is Karen? Where is Karen? Deborah looks at her and goes, who are you? Debbie will tell you she knows who she is. They've been friends forever. Or they were friends with Karen forever, and they knew her for years. So Debbie continues to look around the house to try and figure out what has happened to her friend. And ultimately, she gets the dog that Deborah has. Deborah had a dog at that time. And says, hey, listen, you need to take this dog out. We need to go out. We need to take this dog out. So they do. Deborah gets out. That finally gets her motivated to get out of the bed. She takes the dog. They go to the backyard. And that's where Debbie sees this. She knew that Karen took very good care of her yard. She knew that Karen had just got a lemon tree, a seedling. And when she asked Deborah about it, Deborah says that's from the tree, this is the lemon tree, which was just a seedling. This is an 8-foot long hole.
According to FBI-sourced research published by the International Association for Identification, killers who know their victims conceal the body at dramatically higher rates than strangers. 72% of strangers leave the body where it falls. Only 17% of intimate partners do the same. The research also found that offenders who pre-planned the killing were more likely to dispose of the body on their own property. The burial site wasn't random. It was the most familiar ground Deborah Patton had.
Debbie leaves at that point, and the police are called again. And she tells them, listen, something's not right. This is not good. So, the investigation starts to heat up with the sheriff's office. They begin to decide to look around the neighborhood. And as luck would have it, purely luck, the neighbor across the street happens to be a Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office deputy. And this deputy had a surveillance camera in the front of his yard that looked out, and part of it faced the house belonging to Karen Pais. So these homicide detectives, along with that deputy who knew these people, decided to start watching the videos of the home to see if they see Karen ever leave or come in, or what she does, or what her schedule might be. The last time they see Karen alive, and it will be the last time you will see her, is when on May the 24th, the Monday before, she's out working in her yard, in her front yard. Deputy Garcia noticed to recognize her. She's a neighbor. He says she's always out front. He knows who she is. She always waves and says hello. He goes, that's Karen right there. That was the 24th of May. She's wearing a purple shirt, like a purple t-shirt, and she's wearing light kind of khaki shorts. You will see those clothes. You will see them on that video, and you will see them again at the autopsy. You will see how she's out there in the yard, and the state is going to provide you clips. Now, this was from a surveillance camera that filmed continuously. So as you can imagine, there are hours and hours and hours of video that's just basically the house with nothing to show for it. So the state has condensed and pulled out certain portions of the video that we believe are relevant. And you're going to see that she goes into the garage, and the garage door comes down, and that's the last time she's seen. That is around noon on Monday the 24th. Nothing happens in front of that house or around that house the rest of the day. No one else comes in or out. The detectives will tell you they watched it continuously. In order to obtain a search warrant to go into the house, they had to determine she never left. So they watched and watched and watched for hours and hours in the closet of Deputy Garcia, whose home it was. And they watched this video from that moment in the 24th where she goes into that house to the time when the sheriff's office shows up, and Karen Pais never leaves. And no one else goes in or out except for one person, Deborah Patton. Again, Karen goes back into the house, into the garage. Garage door goes down on May the 24th, right around noon. Around 10:30 at night, the garage door opens again, and out comes Deborah Patton. And this time, she's carrying a very large, what looks to be heavy garbage bag that she takes to the trash can out on the driveway and puts it in the trash can. From that point on, the detectives will tell you they watched and watched and watched, and the only person who comes in and out is Deborah Patton. She came out oftentimes to walk her dog. I didn't include all those clips, but that was one of the things she did a lot, was she would come out front and walk her dog. Karen never comes out. As a result, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office gets a search warrant for the home and proceeds to the home. So when detectives finally obtain the search warrant, what's the first thing they do? They go to that patch of dirt. And they begin to dig. And you're going to hear about how they did this. Homicide detectives, crime scene investigators, slowly but surely, so as not to disturb anything, dug and dug and dug. And about 2 feet down, you will hear they felt something. More importantly, they smelled something. They recognized the smell of a decomposition. And they knew they had some sort of a body down there. So they continued to dig slowly. They called the medical examiner's office out because the medical examiner is in charge of the body, so they wanted to make sure they didn't do anything to disrupt the body or ruin what the medical examiner needed to do. So Dr. Kelly Deborah, who you will hear from, goes out to the scene that day. And she helps them. She gets down there with them. She helps them dig out the body. You will hear that as they were digging, they found little pieces, shards of glass. And you're going to see those shards of glass. That they continue to dig out the body. And that ultimately they are able to pull out the body that was buried in that ground. And when they open up just a portion of it, they see right away a necklace that says the name Karen. They knew they had most likely found Karen Pais. And the medical examiner also noticed very quickly and right away while she was out there at the scene that there was what appeared to be a hole to the chest of Karen Pais. So, the body is taken. It goes to the morgue. It's unwrapped. Slowly but surely it's unwrapped with all the different bags and all the different bungee cords and everything that was used to put her in that ground. And she discovers something else. You see, the ironic thing is that Deborah Patton buried a part of herself with her sister. She buried 2 latex gloves that she clearly used in the process of putting the body in the ground. These latex gloves were sent to a lab. They were swabbed. And the interior of both those gloves contain only one person's DNA, and it is that person right there, Deborah Patton. She buried some of her DNA with her sister.
In Florida, using a firearm during a murder triggers one of the toughest sentencing laws in the country. Under Florida Statute 775.087, known as the 1020 Life Law, possessing a firearm during a felony carries a mandatory minimum of 10 years. Firing it raises that to 20 years, and if the shot kills someone, the mandatory minimum jumps to 25 years to life. No exceptions, no judicial discretion. It means even before a jury reaches a verdict, the sentencing floor is already set.
Meanwhile, the search of the home continues. You're going to hear from the crime scene investigators. You're going to hear from the crime scene detective, Detective Ratu, who's going to talk to you about how they went through the house. The house was immaculate. Very well clean, very well orderly, very well kept. No obvious signs of trauma anywhere. They did notice that Karen's stuff was still there, her purse, her ID, her keys, her car. They go to the garage, they find shovels. And in the garage, they find something right along the door jamb that appears to be blood. So they do a swab of that. That swab is later sent to FDLA, and you're going to hear that that blood was the blood of Karen Pais. Meanwhile, at the morgue, Dr. Kelly Deborah does the autopsy, and she determines that the cause of death was a bullet right through the chest. It went through her heart and out her back. No projectile was ever found because it actually went through her body. So at the home, they're continuing to search. They bring a person out to do what's called Blue Star, which is where they put this chemical down and it generally reacts to blood. And this crime scene investigator will testify, and he'll tell you what he did, why he picked this particular location. It was the patio door that goes right out to the outside. And he ran the Blue Star over it, and sure enough, in the crevices, he found blood. Now, unfortunately, that swab was sent, and they were unable to make a comparison because the DNA had either deteriorated or just wasn't enough to make an actual comparison. But they will say that it was presumptively positive for blood. Now, when the police, or the sheriff's office first shows up, they talk to Deborah Patton, and I've told you that, and she tells them I don't know where my sister is. We don't talk anymore. We're not communicating. She does her own things. I have no idea where she is. But she also tells him something else. Karen and I both have guns. So they do this search of the house, and sure enough, in Karen Pais' bedroom, they find a gun, a revolver, unloaded in a drawer. They go into Deborah Patton's bedroom, no gun. They do find bullets, and they find a spent casing, which is when a bullet's been fired, it's the casing that's left behind. But they don't find any guns. Only one gun is found in that house, and we know that Deborah Patton told them they each had a gun. That casing is ultimately later compared to the gun that they found in Karen Pais' room, and it was not a match. So that casing did not come from that gun, it came from another gun. So the police leave. Ms. Patton is charged. The friends later go to the house because the house now has been willed to the son of Deborah Patton. So they are there helping set up the house or clean up the house. And Pamela Nelson notices an interesting thing in the house. In the kind of the family room area, it's missing a TV, a big screen TV that was there. She said last time they were there, it was there. It's always been there. That TV has never left that spot. But suddenly, when they go back in the house, the TV's not there. And as you can see, these are photos taken from the crime scene investigators who were at the house the day that they did the search, and there's no TV there. And ladies and gentlemen, at the conclusion of this case, oh, and I forgot to mention this too. You're also going to see the clothes. The clothes that you see on the video of her on May the 24th are the same clothes she's found in when her body is exhumed. The medical examiner will say that it is highly likely that based on the decomposition of the body, that she was murdered on the 24th. But certainly around that time, 24th, 25th, because of the state of decomp. So it fits. The fact that she's wearing those clothes on the 24th and that's what she's found in means most likely she was murdered on the 24th. And then Deborah Patton had days to clean up, days to get rid of evidence. You're going to see her driving Karen Pais' car, which the friends will tell you Karen never let her drive her car. And ladies and gentlemen, at the conclusion of all the evidence, I submit to you that there will be no doubt in your mind that Deborah Patton killed her sister, Karen Pais, and buried her in the backyard. And she used a firearm to do it.
Deborah Patton buried her sister 2 feet under the ground she used to garden. She wrapped her in plastic and duct tape and left her wearing the same purple shirt from her last day alive. She buried the latex gloves she used to do it, and inside those gloves was the only DNA investigators needed. Sometimes the evidence isn't found by detectives or forensic teams. Sometimes it's found by friends who knew that a text message just didn't sound right. Karen Pais had no family left to notice she was gone, but she had people who refused to stop looking. What do you think of the prosecution's case against Deborah Patton? Drop yours in the comments below. Check out this next case, which we think you'll find interesting.